Our boy awakens amidst a splitting headache, blood streaming from his left eye and staining his right hand. Shaking his head, he takes in the grim reality. Dead villagers and burning homes surround him. Struggling to his feet, he spots armored guards desperately defending against something. This medieval scene and fierce battle leave our boy utterly confused. Is this some kind of movie? Amidst agonizing screams and heavy thuds, before he could fully process anything, he witnessed a guard being violently struck and flung to the ground. Soon, a massive wolf-like shadow emerges. He instantly recognizes it as the game's monster Wolfrican. The fallen guards, with their familiar armor and attire, cause our boy's heart to sink. They are clearly characters from Vantablack Ring. With the body's memories integrated, he finally understands everything. This is Aram Village, the starting point of Vantablack Ring, which he had played 1,000 times. As our boy processes this information, the ferocious Wolfrican discovers him, roaring and lunging forward. He can only fall to his knees in agony, his heart filled with despair. Driven by survival instinct, he tremblingly grasps a wooden stick, attempting to fight back. Yet, against a monster of overwhelming power, this feeble struggle seems utterly futile. Can he escape this peril? Facing the overwhelming beast, our boy tries to defend himself with a wooden stick. But against absolute power, he is instantly pushed to his limits without a chance to fight back. Looking at the bloody mess and the approaching claws, unprecedented fear grips him. Is he really going to die this miserably right after waking up in this world? His survival instinct kicks in, screaming in his mind. Desperate to live, he grits his teeth and struggles with all his might to get up and run. However, his trembling hands refuse to listen. No matter how hard he tries, his body feels nailed to the ground as the giant maw closes in on him. Just in the nick of time, a brown-haired knight charges in. Shouting our boy's name, he raises his sword and shield to block the monster's fierce attack. After the clash, the knight turns to check on him, only to be hit with pure shock and frustration seeing our guy still kneeling on the ground in a daze. "Do you want to die here?" With a furious roar, the knight wastes no more time. To protect our terrified boy, he launches a suicidal charge against the terrifying beast. But there are no miracles here. Before the massive beast, the brave knight is ruthlessly knocked away in an instant, his blood spraying across the air. This tragic sight pierces our boy's heart, triggering memories of the knight trying to wake him up. Witnessing his comrade's sacrifice, he finally realizes, spacing out in this brutal world means certain death. Just moments ago, a knight fought to his last breath trying to snap our boy out of his daze. Seeing the fallen guards, Hans finally accepts the harsh truth. He's transmigrated as a low-level NPC, and freezing up now means certain death. There's no time to figure out why he crossed over. In this hellish village overrun by monsters, the only thing that matters right now is finding a way to survive. The outside is crawling with brutal wolf-like beasts. They're not just slaughtering the villagers, they've also taken over the warehouse, cutting off everyone's escape route. Drawing on his game knowledge, our boy realizes this is the starting zone for the original hero, Cadis. Despite his weak NPC body gasping for air, he pushes himself to sprint toward a safe spot he remembers. Finally, he manages to sneak into a hidden stable. To hide his human scent from the monster's sharp noses, he turns his attention to the foul-smelling dung on the floor. Survival means throwing dignity out the window. Fighting back intense nausea, our boy grabs the filth and smears it all over himself, doing whatever it takes to completely mask his scent. Hearing the villagers' agonizing cries for help, our guy has no choice but to ignore them. He can barely save himself. Just then, a powerful presence suddenly descends. The man wielding a glowing sword has finally arrived. This is Cadis, the true protagonist destined to wipe out the monsters. According to the plot, it's his time to shine, but will things really go that smoothly? With a bone-chilling howl, the Wolfrican King makes its grand entrance. Right on cue, the legendary hero Cadith arrives, bathed in light and ready for the kill. Hidden in the shadows, our boy watches as Cadith descends like a bolt of blue lightning. It's a perfect opening, exactly like the game he knows by heart. But before our boy can even cheer, the unthinkable happens. The supposedly invincible hero is cut down in a single blow, lying motionless in a pool of blood. Panic sets in as our boy stares at the fallen legend. If this world doesn't have a respawn mechanic, he's not just watching a game over, he's looking at his own grave. Forced to face the brutal reality, our boy takes a deep breath to steady himself. If the world has no hero left, he'll have to become his own savior. As the village burns and screams fill the air, our boy's eyes turn sharp and cold. He knows he only gets one shot at this, and hesitation means certain death. Standing over the remains of the hero he once admired as a player, our boy moves in. At this moment, his will to survive finally outweighs his fear. He reaches down and grips the hilt of the glowing blade. As a strange energy surges through him, he resolves to take up the burden the fallen hero left behind. Armed with expert game knowledge and the hero's sword, our boy readies himself for a desperate counterattack. It's time for an NPC to defy fate. Cornered on the roof and covered in blood, our boy grips his glowing sword. He knows a head-on fight is suicide. He has to wait for the perfect opening. Staring down at the rampaging beast, he forces down his fear. This might be his one and only chance to survive this living nightmare. Before he can hesitate, a rabid white wolf spots him. Facing its gaping jaws, he takes a deep breath and decides to risk it all. As the monster lunges, our boy leaps straight off the roof. Using the massive momentum of the fall, he dives right at the beast with his sword drawn. Die! With a furious roar, he drives the glowing blade straight into the monster's skull, sending blood flying everywhere. But the beast refuses to go down easily, thrashing wildly in its death throes. He pins it down with all his weight, leaving no room for a counterattack. To end the nightmare once and for all, he pulls out a short blade and mercilessly buries it into the beast, completing the ultimate comeback. However, just as the beast collapses, a mysterious golden glint flashes before his eyes. It seems this life or death battle has awakened a dormant power within him. Facing the monster's counterattack, our boy decisively leaps onto its back and impales its skull. Amid splattering blood, he roars to avenge his fallen comrade. However, the beast brushes off the strike and brutally smashes our guy into the debris. He's left utterly shocked that it is still moving after a critical hit. Even with a blade wedged in its head, the savage wolf opens its bloodthirsty jaws. Accompanied by a chilling growl, the shadow of death looms over our defenseless protagonist. Just when all hope seems lost, the phantom of the fallen red-haired hero suddenly appears. Leaping from midair, he delivers a devastating downward slash, ruthlessly crushing the deadly beast. Witnessing this unbelievable strike, our boy is left completely stunned. The familiar, overwhelming presence instantly awakens his heavy memories of that fierce red-haired friend. He recalls the heavy oath they once swore by the cliffside cross. Remembering his fallen friend's unyielding determination, our guy finally realizes he must carry this heavy destiny alone. Pushed to the absolute brink, our boy stops running. With the fallen hero's spirit backing him up, he's ready to survive at any cost. The monstrous wolf is fatally wounded. With his newly awakened senses, our boy perfectly reads every single movement of the beast as he dives in. Without hesitation, he plunges down like a golden meteor, driving his glowing blade straight into the beast's skull with devastating precision. As the massive beast lets out its final roar, blood splatters everywhere. Exhausted, our boy drops to one knee, hoping the worst is over. Staring at the massive corpse, the sheer absurdity of his survival hits him. Surrounded by the carnage, he can't help but let out a maniacal laugh. Fast forward to a safe bed, but our boy still can't rest. The haunting memories of the dungeon perfectly match his new reality, leaving him deeply frustrated. Piecing his memories together, he accepts the bitter truth: he's stuck in the body of a nameless NPC. And the real danger has only just begun. After narrowly surviving, our boy finally grasps his situation. He realizes he didn't just inherit this body, but also the fallen hero Codis's memories and swordsmanship. Like any veteran gamer, he confidently shouts to open his status window. But instead of a magical system interface, his yelling only startles the local chickens. After resting in the village for a few days, he accepts reality. Since this world still operates by the game's brutal rules, he knows going solo is suicide. Geared up and ready, he locks his sights on Pabbles, a silver-haired hero staying at the same inn. In the original game, this guy was an absolute powerhouse. Hoping to stage a natural encounter, he conveniently bumps right into Pabbles by the door. The sudden collision leaves the silver-haired hero looking visibly cautious and confused. To smooth things over, our boy insists on buying him a massive feast. Watching Pabbles happily devour the food, he secretly plots how to officially recruit him. After enjoying the meal, Pavel sharply notices something odd. He casually asks why a heavily armed mercenary like him isn't joining the large-scale monster hunting quest. Facing the hero's probing, our guy calmly replies that they share the exact same reason for staying behind. They exchange a knowing chuckle, sensing a mutual understanding. Facing questions from the other hunters, our boy calmly states his goal. He isn't here for the bounty. He just wants a strong team to take down the Etro. Knowing these guys only care about money, our boy casually tosses a massive bag of gold on the table, securing his heavy hitters with pure cash. As the newly formed team heads deep into the forest, our guy's plan is simple. Let the silver-haired pro Pabbles play hero, while he stays safely in the back. Relying on their tracking skills, the veteran hunters quickly locate the Etro's massive roots. The tension drops to freezing as they realize the real battle is about to begin. The massive tree monster suddenly erupts from the ground, attacking with deadly vines. Meanwhile, instead of fighting, our boy is literally sitting in the back eating popcorn. Fortunately, his expensive mercenaries are worth every penny. The blue-haired hunter smoothly draws his bow, landing a glowing arrow right into the monster's eye. Pavels joins the assault with his heavy crossbow. Working together perfectly, they unleash a barrage of red beams from multiple angles, blasting the beast with explosive force. But a mutated boss monster doesn't go down that easily. Roaring in pain, the Etro counterattacks, whipping a massive vine that violently sends the blue-haired hunter flying into the air. Even while tumbling through the air, the blue-haired hunter tightly grips a highly volatile magic stone. Facing this desperate situation, he and Pavels have silently agreed on the exact same reckless plan: blow everything to pieces. The hunter throws the gem without hesitation, and the silver-haired hero Pavels is already locked and loaded. Channeling an immense amount of magic into his crystal polearm, he unleashes a blinding surge of blue energy that lights up the entire battlefield. Pavels crashes down, his polearm firing a piercing beam that detonates the magic gems below. As explosive energy sweeps the battlefield, our boy watches from the shadows, his glowing eyes quietly analyzing every detail with his cheat-like abilities. A deafening explosion rocks the battlefield, swallowing everything in smoke and destructive flames. Through the settling dust, a desperate cry echoes for Pavels. Caught in the center of the blast, it seems the hero's luck might have finally run out. The mysterious masked man watches the chaos unfold from the shadows. He calculated that this brutal war of attrition would cripple the giant rock boss Anthro, setting the perfect stage for the surviving warrior to become a legend. But reality hits them like a truck. Just as the hunter readies his weapon to follow up, a terrifying crimson eye pierces through the smoke, sending a chill down his spine. The rock monster isn't dead, it's just entered its enraged phase. Before the hunter can even react, a catastrophic barrage of deadly attacks rains down on him. Facing this wildly unfair boss mechanic, the desperate man can only curse his fate. This isn't how the game is supposed to go. While everyone might accept a hero's death as fate, Pavel's weapon breaking at the worst possible moment is just rotten luck. With the main fighters gone, the situation hits rock bottom. Facing the roaring rock behemoth, our boy knows a head-on clash is his only option. Thanks to the fallen hero Cadus's swordsmanship, he draws his glowing blade and dashes forward like a blur. His fierce strike lands heavily, but taking down this titan requires more than just sword skills. Thinking fast, our boy spots Pavel's drop bag containing the transformation stone nearby. With a piercing swoosh, he sprints close to the ground at breakneck speed. Mid-dash, he seamlessly activates his second trump card, the exclusive ability of the fallen hunter Pavels. The explosive energy blasts the rock behemoth, creating a deafening shockwave. The massive impact forces the beast back as its tough rocky armor shatters into blinding bursts of light. Superheated debris scatters everywhere, finally exposing the fatal core hidden inside the beast's head. However, its agonizing roars create a physical shockwave, making it nearly impossible to approach. Pushing through the fierce resistance, our boy grips his sword and charges again. After all, the tricks up his sleeve go far beyond just Cadus's swordsmanship. The real counterattack is about to begin. The intense battle kicks off as the masked warrior unleashes a fluid, high-speed barrage of strikes right at the massive rock monster's head, catching it completely off guard. The wounded beast opens its abyssal mouth, letting out a deafening roar. Looking at its grotesque, crumbling visage, the masked man can't help but inwardly cringe at how sickening it always is. Jokes aside, as a veteran who knows the mechanics, he is well aware that the only way to defeat Enthro is to destroy the hidden crystal core in its face. Without wasting a breath, he lowers his stance to gather power, then launches himself like a cannonball, bringing his glowing sword down fiercely onto the monster's damaged head. Fully aware of the monster's attack patterns, he knows he must strike before it retaliates. Flipping midair, he merges with his blade, diving straight down like a falling shooting star. Accompanied by an earth-shattering roar, the sharp blade unleashes terrifying energy, brutally tearing through the rock monster's impenetrable shell like butter and erupting in blinding light. With unstoppable momentum, the fierce blade pierces through all defenses and accurately shatters the deep red core. As the monster's agonizing screams echo, the true strength of this mysterious expert is only just beginning to show. With a desperate roar, the giant rock monster crumbles in a massive explosion. Our boy lands smoothly on the disintegrating debris, letting out a heavy sigh. Staring at his glowing hands, he finally understands his cheat ability. Whether it's unique swordsmanship or expert throwing skills, he can perfectly absorb the powers of any fallen hero. This classic savior trope gives our guy a massive headache. Refusing his so-called hero's destiny, he decides to head straight to Malik Castle to find his next carry. The path to the castle is blocked by a terrifying skeleton lord. With his main attacker dead, our boy shifts tactics and visits the infamous Calyx village to find a solution. Relying on his 1,000 playthroughs, our guy knows every hidden corner of this place. He navigates the corridors from memory to find the crucial tool needed to defeat the boss. As he steps into the gloomy underground market, an overly eager guide tries to offer her services. Our boy turns her down instantly. He's already too familiar with this tricky beginner zone. Remembering his own bitter struggles here as a beginner, he feels a wave of nostalgia. Ignoring the usual goods, his gaze locks onto a huddled, white-haired girl in the corner. "I choose you." Looking at the white-haired girl Lemelin he just bought, our boy's attitude is ice cold. To him, she's nothing more than a unique, exclusive tool. Facing the defenseless girl, our boy feels zero empathy. In this brutal world, she's just a temporary stepping stone to keep him alive, ready to be discarded anytime. Meanwhile, he secretly observes the other heroes. Relying on his veteran player memories, he instantly recognizes their growth and weapon loadouts at a single glance. With the game's walkthrough fully memorized, every hero's whereabouts are entirely under his control. After confirming the intel, he coldly calls for Lemelin to head out. He strictly warns her to keep up. In his original plan, this weak slave's job is brutally simple: just rush in and act as bait to draw monster aggro. They soon sneak into a skeleton-infested ruin. To avoid trouble, our guy calls Lemelin over and suddenly pokes her with an unknown device that sprays smoke, making her flinch hard. Seeing her confused face, he calmly explains it's a scent-erasing powder made from special fruits. It temporarily masks their presence, perfectly allowing them to slip past the monsters. Deep within the ruins, our masked boy is secretly negotiating with an ally. Ever the pragmatist, he refuses to blindly jump into the fray, knowing that reading the situation is the only way to survive. Just as they decide to observe and keep their options open, the situation on the front lines takes a sharp turn for the worse. Under the night sky, a suffocating killing intent surrounds the ancient fortress. The warrior they placed their hopes on is brutally defeated by a relentless skeleton army. Rising from the sea of corpses is the hidden boss commanding these undead forces. Hummel. Watching yet another potential carry bite the dust, our boy lets out a helpless sigh. Looks like he has to do the dirty work himself. He turns to Lemelin and seriously briefs her on the plan. "If you want to live, just run." He not only hands her a generous sum of escape money, but also gives her a special burning twig to lure enemies, telling her to leave and never come back. Hearing these parting words, Lemelin instinctively brings up her slave contract. But to her shock, our boy casually mentions that he had already freed her before they even arrived. Deeply moved by this unreserved trust, the now freed Lemelin doesn't run away. Instead, she bravely lights the torches and charges toward the enemy line, successfully baiting the entire skeleton horde. Back in the ruins, Lemelin finds herself surrounded by an army of skeletons and a mysterious masked figure. But our boy isn't worried. He knows her white elf agility will keep her out of their bony clutches. Meanwhile, a well-timed explosion clears out most of the enemies on our guy's side. Facing just 3 remaining skeleton soldiers, he readies his sword, noting that this is going to be much easier than expected. At the same time, acting as the perfect bait, Lemelin sprints frantically through the narrow stone alleys with a torch in hand, closely chased by the eerie masked man and a relentless horde of undead. Remembering her master's instructions, she leaps through the northern gate. Just as he promised, the seemingly fragile fence acts as an impenetrable barrier, completely stopping the skeletal horde in their tracks. Collapsing on the ground after her narrow escape, Lemelin reflects on her tragic fate as a slave. She honestly thought she was just being used as disposable bait and fully expected to die tonight. However, watching the cursed slave brand vanish in the flames, she bursts into tears. She finally realizes our boy kept his word. Not only did she survive, but she is also truly free. Back on the main battlefield, things are heating up. Facing a skeleton's aggressive sword strike, our boy expertly blocks with his shield and immediately counterattacks, sending the undead soldier flying backward. He then smoothly channels the hero Pavel's throwing skills, launching a weapon straight through the enemy line. Though the hit isn't quite enough to drop the powerful masked foe, our guy dodges gracefully, already setting up his next move. Activating his newly absorbed powers, our boy feels lighter than ever. He becomes a deadly blur, effortlessly slicing through the skeleton grunts like a hot knife through butter. After a dazzling series of high-speed strikes, the annoying mobs are completely wiped out. Our guy pauses, locking his sights on the true threat lurking in the shadows. It's Hummel, the undead boss. The monster's terrifying strength and insane healing abilities are a huge headache, forcing our boy to brace himself for a brutal head-on clash. With nowhere to dodge, their blades collide in an explosive strike. Sparks fly and massive shockwaves tear through the area, completely shattering the stone ground beneath them. The power gap is just too brutal. Taking that heavy hit head-on leaves our guy coughing up blood on his knees, and his cracked sword is barely holding together. Cornered with a broken weapon and heavy injuries, he just rips off his damaged helmet. Wiping the blood, he sighs, looking dangerously ready to pull off a desperate final move. Our boy wipes the blood from his lips, his gaze turning icy cold. With his preparations complete, he vanishes into a blur, launching a fierce assault directly into the enemy's heart. Facing Hummel's mountain-heavy hammer, our boy doesn't brute force it. He uses his agility to hunt for openings, knowing these massive swings are actually opportunities in disguise. Despite the relentless waves of attacks, our boy holds his ground through the impact. He's waiting for the exact moment to tip the scales and bring this behemoth down. Under the moonlight, our boy seizes a fleeting opening. With a swift diving thrust, his sword pierces straight through the skeletal swordsman's hardened skull. Next, he pulls out a custom silver chain coated in holy water. As a veteran player, our boy knows the best way to win is through superior item management. The chain snapped tight, locking the enemy's movements as if they had a mind of their own. Our boy leaps up again, his eyes fixed on the core hidden deep within the skull. Under the heavy blow, the glowing blue core is finally exposed. It regenerates faster when damaged, but that's exactly what our boy anticipated. Think you can out-heal me? Our boy unleashes his secret stash of holy water. Let's see if your regeneration can keep up with a literal holy bath. Watching his opponent writhe under the holy water's purification, our boy adjusts his stance. With his blade ready, he prepares to deliver the final killing blow. The battle reaches its climax as our boy shoves the core into Hummel's eye, ending the nightmare once and for all. As the boss crumbles, he realizes this fight played out exactly like the last time. After the dust settles, a weary Hans reflects on his journey. He only ever wanted a comfortable life by helping heroes, but now, he's not even sure what he's fighting for anymore. Lemelin stands by silently as Hans surveys the skeletal ruins. He can't help but curse his luck. No matter how hard he tries to stay safe, he always ends up looking like a mess after every fight. Noticing Lemelin is still masked up, our boy tells her to take it off. She looks exhausted underneath, while Hans gives her that classic "I'm so done with this" look, making things a bit awkward. He recalls how he'd already freed her from the slave contract, yet she chose to return to the battlefield. Even when he was broken and bleeding out, she was the one who refused to leave his side. Lemelin tends to his wounds with medicine and care. But as soon as he's back on his feet, our guy tries to push her away again, telling her she's finally free to go her own way. But the girl won't budge, just shaking her head in silence. Even when he offers her food and asks what else she needs, she stays quiet, driving our already impatient boy absolutely crazy. Frustrated, our boy tries to make a run for it, but she follows him right into the forest. Their fates are clearly tied together, whether he likes it or not, as they head deeper into the unknown. Looking at the white-haired girl clinging to his leg with absolute reliance, our boy can't help but feel a massive headache coming on. Given the current situation, they have to detour to the Alban fortress. Glancing at the girl trailing behind, our guy finally asks, why follow him to suffer when she's already free? Clutching the cracked helmet, the girl tearfully reveals her heart. He was the only one who didn't mistreat her, and all she wants is simply to survive. Holding up his battered armor, our guy points out he can barely protect himself. But the girl knows perfectly well that wandering alone would lead to a quick death. Seeing her holding back tears, his desire to travel solo begins to waver. He knows deep down that she belongs to the extremely rare white flower tribe. If left to wander alone, she could easily be captured by slave traders again. Letting out a long sigh, our boy finally caves in with a tough-sounding warning to keep his helmet safe. His reluctant promise instantly turns her tears into a bright smile. Standing side by side, they gaze at the sunset, heading towards their next destination together. However, as night falls, the Alban fortress is shrouded in an eerie silence. With bodies scattered around the gates, it's clear that a hidden crisis is already waiting for them. Inside the late-night apothecary, a customer angrily demands their requested job. However, the eccentric alchemist remains unfazed, casually mentioning that he needs the ashes of the dead to finish it. The arrogant attitude almost makes the furious customer draw his sword. But the apothecary just playfully mocks him until the creak of the opening door breaks the tension. Our boy steps into the shop with Lemelin, directly asking for elixirs of restoration. Spotting unfamiliar faces, the curious apothecary instantly bombards them with questions about their background. Facing the endless probing, our boy coldly asks if it even matters, instantly shutting down the interrogation. The apothecary takes the hint and moves on to business. Our boy requests 10 high-tier elixirs at once. The apothecary tries to intimidate them with the cost, but Hans confidently states he knows their true value and promises a fair price. The apothecary cautiously asks for 10 gold coins, but our boy doesn't even flinch. Instead, he willingly offers 15. This wild reverse haggling leaves the merchant completely stunned. As heavy gold coins hit the table, our boy's plan unfolds. As a veteran player, he knows perfectly well that overpaying this NPC is the quickest way to max out affinity and unlock crucial intel. Right on cue, Lemelin pulls out a bag of white powder. Recognizing the rare ashes of the dead, the apothecary immediately strokes his chin. Our boy smirks. The hidden affinity trigger is working. Thrilled by the rare materials, the apothecary's attitude does a total 180. He eagerly offers to craft the items, and even upsells his services. Our guy's investment has officially won over this key NPC. To prepare for the looming crisis, our boy downs a strange potion. It tastes absolutely awful, but as long as it boosts his strength, he'll gladly take it. Trouble finds them quickly when some strangers mistake Lemelin for a slave. Seeing the girl tense up, our boy completely shuts down their ridiculous offer with a cold stare. Leaving the creeps behind, the two stroll up the fortress walls. Looking out at the gorgeous sunrise, Lemelin lets her guard down, enjoying a rare moment of peace. But our boy quickly shatters the mood. He grimly reveals that since the local hero is dead, a massive horde of monsters will attack this fortress next week. To gather more intel, they head straight to a crowded, noisy tavern. Inside, arrogant bounty hunters are chugging drinks and loudly bragging about their so-called glorious bounties. All that noise inevitably ticks off the wrong person. A grumpy mercenary finally snaps, sending the loudest braggart flying across the room with a brutal punch. As a massive bar brawl is about to erupt, our boy calmly sits in the corner eating. Even Lemelin wonders how long they can just watch before the real chaos catches up to them. To avoid drawing attention, our boy simply tells Lemelin to sit down and eat. Watching her happily devour the skewers, he secretly ponders a massive crisis he hasn't mentioned yet. The upcoming monster siege is no joke. Not only will elite undead knights lead the charge, but if the defense line breaks, it's straight up game over for everyone. Logically, some overpowered heroes should step up to save the day. Too bad they're all dead. Our guy hoped for competent backup, only to find a bunch of thugs brawling in the tavern. Watching these fools beat each other to a pulp over petty loot, our boy just takes a quiet sip of his drink. Relying on them to defend the fortress is basically suicide. Since these meat shields are completely useless, our boy decides to stop watching from the sidelines. He puts down his cup and asks Lemelin for his helmet, ready to handle this mess himself. To prepare for the bloody battles ahead, he knows simply copying moves won't cut it. He starts blending Kaditha's swordsmanship with the extracted powers of the Fallen, forging a deadlier combat style. The moment he puts on the silver mask and transforms into a ruthless powerhouse, his overwhelming aura immediately triggers the sharp instincts of the red-haired mercenary nearby. In this brutal world, the greatest heroes have already fallen. Instead of mourning, our boy knows he must survive by any means necessary because only the survivors get to be called the strong. Triggered by the situation, the residual memories in our boy's body unexpectedly resonate, flashing back to the overwhelming despair of facing terrifying monsters, realizing their strength was merely the sheer luck of surviving. But our boy isn't having it. He forcibly suppresses the surging emotions, coldly stating he has no interest in dead men's memories, leaving the red-haired mercenary completely bewildered. Sensing the shifting mood, our boy promptly calls Lemelin to retreat. But as she glances back, the red-haired mercenary freezes. Her silhouette perfectly aligns with a girl from his past, who has long passed away. After leaving the tense scene, our guy takes Lemelin to a blacksmith to get her geared up. Picking up a longsword, he starts questioning the girl about her combat fundamentals. It turns out she knows absolutely nothing terrible with swords and never touched a bow. Seeing her apologize so pitifully, he isn't mad, figuring a blank slate is much easier to train than a half-baked fighter. Since conventional weapons won't work, our boy scans the weapon wall and quickly picks out a light weapon suited for beginners, decisively taking it down. Holding the unfamiliar weapon, Lemelin is visibly terrified. Our boy leans in with a slightly creepy yet reassuring smile, telling her not to worry, she'll pick up all the skills she needs once she's thrown into actual combat. As feathers drift across the sky, a narrator reveals Lemelin's background. In this harsh world, her white flower tribe is despised and ignored, and the path ahead of this duo is destined to be anything but peaceful. The white flower tribe possesses a terrifying innate combat sense, magnifying a single battle experience 100-fold. Under our boy's grueling training, Lemelin is growing rapidly. Although crossbows usually take weeks to master, she managed to hit dead center in just a few days, fully displaying her extraordinary talent. However, no matter how much her skills improve, limited by her current level and stats, she still can't compare to a true hero. Seeing her hard work, our boy specially prepared a brand new combat suit for Lemelin. After all, she absolutely cannot be seen as a slave in the upcoming fierce battle. D-Day has finally arrived. In her new gear, Lemelin's eyes are filled with determination. In this cruel world, they can only carve out a bloody path with their own strength. Facing the imminent battle, Lemelin is inevitably nervous. But our boy is completely relaxed, as he has already cleared this game 1,000 times, knowing every tactic by heart. Suddenly, the urgent alarm bell rings out across the walls. The guards quickly take their positions, and archers prepare their bows behind the battlements. The war is about to begin. The mercenaries can barely contain their battle frenzy. In the crowd, a red-haired warrior recognizes Hans and the silver-haired girl, secretly deciding to thank him properly after the battle. With a massive rift tearing the sky, the fortress is under full siege. Elite armored soldiers dive from above, shouting grand accusations as they launch their assault on our boy's faction. The enemies are busy giving a grand, intimidating speech, but our guy has no time for that. With the ghost of Pavel's giving a thumbs up, he draws his bow to shut them up. Using Pavel's sure hit ability, the arrow lands flawlessly. The loudmouth enemy is instantly taken out, leaving everyone, including Lemelin, completely stunned by the sudden kill. The surviving enemies furiously curse him as a coward, but our boy just shrugs. As a veteran gamer, isn't skipping the enemy's cutscene to attack just basic common sense? Seeing the enemy go down in one hit, the defending soldiers get incredibly hyped. However, our guy knows the game mechanics too well to fall for this fake victory. He calmly warns a confused Lemelin that the real signal for war is about to drop. Without a second thought, the two instantly turn around and sprint away from the front line. Just as they escape, an apocalyptic fireball crashes directly into the fortress. A massive explosion wipes out the cheering defenders in seconds, proving our boy's survival instincts right once again. A massive fireball rains down from the sky, instantly blowing a huge breach in the sturdy wall. The defenders are left in absolute shock and terror. Despite the breached defenses, the commander desperately rallies his men. The mercenaries, who initially hoped to make some quick coin, are instantly paralyzed by fear. The battlefield turns into a meat grinder, with broken soldiers crying out to flee. But the bald commander knows that running from such monsters guarantees no survival. In their darkest hour, the men can only pray for a fairy tale hero to descend. But reality is cruel, offering nothing but relentless slaughter and screams. The enemy's elite monsters tear through the defenders like nothing. Even the soldiers' desperate counterattacks fail to slow down this relentless killing machine. Barely escaping death, the brown-haired mercenary gasps for air. He makes a terrifying realization these aren't the ordinary monsters he used to hunt. With morale hitting rock bottom, the bald commander furiously draws his sword. To protect their families, he leads a fearless charge against the overwhelming enemy. Powered by sheer desperation, the defenders manage to hold their ground. But just as the commander tries to boost morale, a mocking voice echoes from the shadows. On the chaotic battlefield, the bald commander frantically swings his sword, while the blue-masked elite spirit coldly declares that all invaders will be entirely wiped out. Plunging from the sky, the blue-masked elite locks onto a heavily injured soldier. Watching the fatal blue light approach, the bloodied man falls into total despair. But just in the nick of time, A fierce spear thrust heavily clashes against the descending blue sword. A deafening burst of energy completely blocks the fatal strike. As the smoke clears, it turns out our boy and Lemelin have arrived just in time. Seeing the soldier is fine, he calmly orders him to notify the others. Without waiting for a reply, our boy prepares to move on. Facing another group of spirits blocking their way, he directly orders Lemelin to clear a bloody path. Looking at the tide of enemies surging around them, our boy knows that the only way to end this desperate siege is to crush these hundreds of elite spirits. With a single command, our boy rides his warhorse like a shooting star. By perfectly combining his absorbed master horsemanship with Kata's spear techniques, he's ready to teach these elite spirits a lesson. Faced with a terrifying army of undead and suffocating purple energy, the air is thick with deadly intent. Just when things look grim, our boy fearlessly charges right into the enemy formation on his black steed. The undead soldiers part ways. While Lemelin trembles in fear, the enemy leader Radak stands waiting at the end of the path. Facing Radak's arrogant questioning, our guy stays completely calm. He silences Lemelin and reaches into his bag for something. He decisively throws a cloth with a cross crest at the enemy. Radak halts, recognizing it as a sacred token for a knight's duel. In life, Radak was a knight commander who valued honor above all. Our boy exploits this mechanic, using tradition to prevent a group fight. He boldly declares a duel of honor. The crest is actually just a cheap fake. This insane bluff leaves Lemelin completely horrified. Mistaking our boy's silence for a display of knightly honor, the Imperial Commander Radak bursts into a chilling laugh, finding this rare trait delightful in such filthy times. Radak spots Lemelin and promises that even if our boy falls, he will respect the code of honor and spare the young squire's life. With everything proceeding as planned, our boy raises his weapon to accept the duel, knowing this is the only way to keep Lemelin safe from the surrounding soldiers. The Sun Knight Commander Radak formally introduces himself, his overwhelming presence filling the air as our boy, disguised as Evan, prepares for the clash. As the duel is declared, our boy firmly commands Lemelin to step back. Though she's terrified, she knows she must stay out of the way for his sake. Our boy quickly analyzes the situation based on his gained knowledge, betting that even a powerful boss like Radak will follow predictable attack patterns. Our boy charges forward without hesitation, earning respect from Radak, who vows to meet such bravery with his full, unbridled strength. But just as the fight heats up, Lemelin senses a terrifying shift in the atmosphere. Radak's stance changes, and a sinister energy begins to swell around him. Our boy is shocked to see Radak enter his berserk mode so early. This lethal power spike should only happen near death, not at the start of the fight. Facing the Berserk Knight Commander Radak on horseback, our boy quickly calculates his options. He knows taking down the horse could bypass the berserk phase, but right now, he has to face this terrifying pressure head-on. Seeing our guy hesitate, Radak roars and crashes down like a blood-red meteor with his halberd. Yet our boy doesn't panic as a veteran player, he already knows this berserk pattern inside out. Switching to Cadis's combat style, which specializes in diverting force, our boy meets the heavy strike head-on. He attempts to parry and break the opponent's balance, triggering a deafening energy explosion. Just as our guy thinks he successfully broke Radak's balance, the unexpected happens. That cursed black steed manages to forcibly stabilize itself in midair, recovering its master's posture against all odds. Hearing the mocking laughter from above, our boy curses the game's unfair mechanics in his head. Faced with such blatant taunting, his eyes turn cold, vowing to make this arrogant boss regret it. Radak gives our boy no room to breathe, unleashing a storm of devastating slashes. Struggling to hold up against the massive energy shockwaves, our guy knows that simply defending will never bring him victory. While searching for an opening to counterattack, Radak's overwhelming force shatters his defense, nearly making our boy cough up blood. The horse's hooves crush the ground, pushing the situation to a desperate extreme. Amidst an enraged roar, Radak bursts into terrifying blood-red flames and charges forward with lethal intent. How will our boy survive this earth-shattering final strike? Facing Radak's relentless halberd strikes, our boy knows a head-on clash is suicide. He holds his ground, desperately waiting for the perfect opening. Just as Radak goes for the finishing blow from above, our boy activates Cadis's trait, a massive power boost when fully committed to an aggressive stance. Flames and aura erupt as our boy charges right into the lethal strike. But his devastating upward slash isn't aimed at Radak at all. The explosive shockwave sends both rider and beast flying. This brilliant misdirection not only saves his life, but completely strips the boss of his terrifying mobility. The tactic worked, but using such an overpowered skill comes with a heavy price. Despite his buffs, the extreme stamina drain leaves his muscles screaming in pain. To make matters worse, being unhorsed didn't severely injure Radek, it only enraged him. A ferocious crimson aura explodes into the sky, making the very air tremble. The fallen Knight Commander finally drops his arrogance. Hovering midair with pure killing intent, he vows to crush his challenger with everything he has. Right in the middle of this suffocating standoff, Lemelin rushes to the battlefield. Seeing this god-tier clash, all she can do is freeze and pray for a miracle. On the sidelines, Lemelin watches the battle with growing dread. The red-haired man bluntly points out that our boy seems to be losing. Even though he told her to stay put, the knight warns her that blind obedience might lead to an irreversible loss. While the knight's words weigh on Lemelin, the red-armored boss kicks off round 2. Our guy is in a tight spot thanks to the reality adjustment of this world. Carrying too much gear has its penalties, leaving him weaponless and forced to call out to Lemelin for his backup gear. Hearing his call, Lemelin frantically digs through a container for a backup sword. The red-haired knight watches with a sigh, mocking our boy as a tin can. In his eyes, being unprepared in such a life-or-death moment is a path straight to disaster. The fight reaches a fever pitch as the boss unleashes a relentless assault, intent on settling an old score. Our boy barely manages to dodge and block with his shield, which is already starting to crack under the overwhelming weight of the enemy's explosive blows. As the ground trembles from the heavy impacts, Lemelin realizes she can't just sit idly by. Watching our boy get pushed back by the explosive strikes, she steels her resolve, knowing she must intervene to save her master from the brink. Under the moonlight, the enemy mocks our boy's sluggish movements, thinking he's lost his edge. But despite the heavy breathing and crushing pressure, our guy holds his ground. He didn't endure that hellish training for nothing. He's waiting for the one opening that will turn the tide. With the boss closing in, our boy knows brute force won't bridge the gap. Gritting his teeth amidst the swirling red flames, he calmly steadies his breath. A final counterplay is in the works. As long as Lemelin delivers the weapon, this deadly game is far from over. Seizing the perfect moment, our boy transforms and delivers a devastating plunging attack, triggering a massive explosion. The sheer impact leaves both Lemelin and the red-haired guy completely stunned. As the dust settles, the Knight Commander Radek still stands. Unfazed, he claims to have seen through our boy's attack patterns, unleashing a fierce red aura for a decisive strike. However, our boy never intended to fight fair. He tosses out a red crystal. Radek arrogantly slashes it, only to realize it's a highly explosive redstone. Our guy immediately signals Lemelin. Following the command, Lemelin detonates the crystal, engulfing the battlefield in a massive explosion. But against all odds, Radek emerges from the flames unscathed, mocking them for thinking such a cheap trick could work. Unbothered by the taunts, our boy casually reveals his true weapon, a polearm equipped with a fishing net. This seemingly pathetic gear deeply insults the proud Knight Commander, who lunges down for a relentless assault. As Radek relentlessly attacks, he mocks our boy's cowardly tactics. But this plays right into our guy's hands. He wants the enemy to underestimate him, shouting back to mess with the knight's mindset. What? Does a noble knight really discriminate against weapons? Our boy's sarcastic taunt completely fuels Radek's rage. With the enemy losing his cool, the real trap is just about to unfold. Facing a taunting opponent, our boy remains calm while Radek arrogantly commands his knights to stay back, insisting on a strictly one-on-one duel to protect his pride. As explosions rock the battlefield, the onlookers are left stunned. Hansa's red-haired friend watches in confusion, unable to grasp how the situation escalated into such an intense clash. Feeling insulted, Radek unleashes a terrifying surge of energy. Enveloped in blood-red aura and murderous intent, he prepares a devastating strike to finish our boy off for good. Knowing a direct clash is suicide, our boy pulls out a specialized net. He leaps into the air at the perfect moment, casting the energy-laden trap over his arrogant foe. Radek scoffs at the net at first, but panic sets in as it binds him. He realizes too late that it's infused with holy water and silver, specifically designed to neutralize him. Bound and humiliated, Radek screams about fairness. But our boy simply shrugs. In a battle for survival, there's no need for fair play. Only the living get to decide the rules. As the truth comes to light, the red-haired friend is utterly shocked, shouting Hansa's name in disbelief. Our boy takes a deep breath. The hardest part is finally over. Drawing on 1,000 playthroughs, our boy brings out hidden gear a beginner could never touch, a silver trident and holy water ready to teach this knight a lesson. Refusing to fight unprepared in such deadly situations, he adopts the ancient Roman retiarius style. It's the perfect counter for a heavy knight who only knows frontal assaults. The holy water-soaked net instantly locks the villain down. But what truly shatters his confidence is how our boy's spear technique completely changed mid-fight without any warning. How is this possible? The once arrogant knight completely loses his composure. He desperately struggles against the net, frantically trying to figure out a way to slip away. Just as the villain tries to use his shield to slip out, our boy strikes down and whips out a second net. Did you really think your escape tricks weren't predicted? Watching this kid expertly dodge while wielding the perfect counter weapons, the villain finally realizes this isn't luck, it's a perfectly calculated execution meant just for him. Pushed to the absolute brink, the villain completely breaks down. He curses our boy's dirty tactics, screaming at him to fight honorably with a sword like a true knight. Faced with the enemy's raging tantrum, our guy looks completely unfazed but is secretly sweating bullets. His whole dominant routine was a bluff, and his stamina is completely gone. Facing the trapped Radak, our boy launches a surprise attack without breaking a sweat. With 1,000 playthroughs under his belt, he knows this boss's mechanics inside out. Just a little taunting is enough to force a fatal opening. Shocked and enraged by our guy's seemingly prophetic words, Radak breaks free and unleashes a devastating dive attack. Unfazed, Hans counters head-on, with the ultimate skill he inherited from the fallen hero. Violent energies collide in midair, as both sides push their limits. Ultimately, a massive beam of light strikes from the heavens, utterly obliterating the arrogant Sun Knight commander amidst his screams of despair. As Radak turns to dust, a hidden artifact glowing with brilliant light descends from the sky. This is exactly why our boy risked everything for a one-on-one duel. He needs this overpowered gear to survive the hellish future. Before our boy can even catch his breath, a loud shout breaks the silence. The original Hans's red-haired friend has finally tracked him down. To keep his identity hidden, our guy plays dead and flat-out denies being Hans. But clearly, such bad acting won't fool his best buddy. Faced with the red-haired friend's confident and unyielding smile, how our boy is going to talk his way out of this one is going to be a real headache. Faced with the original owner's best friend, our boy sighs inwardly. Explaining he's a transmigrator would only cause more trouble. Frustrated by his silence, the red-haired guy slams him against the wall, demanding answers. Realizing things are getting messy, our guy decides to make a run for it. He coldly orders Lemelin to follow, threatening to leave her behind if she hesitates. Terrified, she begs him not to abandon her and quickly catches up. After single-handedly taking down the Sun Knight commander, our boy knows perfectly well that the Empire's forces will be hunting him. Staying here is basically a death wish. So what's the deal with this red-haired friend? Back when their starting village was massacred, he woke up surrounded by flames. He searched the ruined village, but Hans's body was nowhere to be found. Consumed by regret for being unconscious during the attack, he gritted his teeth. Dead or alive, he made a vow to track down his best friend no matter what. To find his missing brother, he embarked on a perilous journey alone. He fought through hordes of terrifying monsters in the dark forests, desperate for any clue. Over the years, he traveled everywhere with a sketch, slaying monsters and saving countless lives. Yet, he never found Hans. Searching for him slowly turned into a lingering regret. Finding his brother became his ultimate obsession. Snapping back to reality, he stares at the cold but familiar figure in front of him, firmly calling out the name he's been searching for all along. While his red-haired friend is interrogated at sword point, our boy is deep in a dark forest. But instead of panicking, he's just casually enjoying some barbecue. Lemelin is totally confused when he throws weird leaves into the fire. Our boy explains it's a special herb that emits a scent to keep monsters away for hours. As they rest, a curious Lemelin finally speaks up. She cautiously asks about his true identity, but our guy just brushes it off as being a regular wanderer. Lemelin tries to argue, but our boy's expression hardens as he shushes her. Hearing heavy footsteps approaching, he sighs and announces they're completely surrounded. Right on cue, armed soldiers emerge to box them in. Lemelin immediately draws her swords to fight, while the enemies clearly came prepared. The blonde commander steps forward, mistaking our boy for the legendary knight Evan. He introduces himself as Commander Kelvin and firmly requests that they come along. Our guy isn't one to back down and bluntly asks what happens if he refuses. The commander's smile vanishes as he grips his sword hilt, ready to use force. Facing the knight commander's high-sounding words, our boy plays along on the surface, but is completely annoyed inside. In a split second, he completes a tactical simulation in his mind, draw the sword, strike down the annoying knight, and slash the back line with Kaditha's swordsmanship. But logic tells him he can't fully control his power yet. When the knight probes if he'll resist, our guy instantly puts on a calm face and plays it safe. To avoid escalating the conflict, he casually bonks Lemelin, who is ready to fight for him, telling her to pack up and get on the carriage. However, that fleeting moment didn't escape the commander's eyes. Though laughing it off, he is secretly shocked by the pure killing intent and masterful footwork our boy just showed. The commander is stunned. How could someone master multiple weapons? If true, he's a total monster. But he eventually shakes his head, convincing himself it was just a tired illusion. The convoy slowly advances through the gloomy forest. Inside the carriage, Lemelin grips her clothes tightly, showing extreme fear toward the heavily armed men outside. Watching the trembling girl, our boy quietly chews his rations. He realizes that for her to be this traumatized, her tragic past as a slave must be closely tied to these so-called regular armies. Traveling through the night, our boy quietly plans his next move. He decides to make a strategic detour first, completely unbothered by how exhausted the escorting knights might get. Watching our guy sleep and slightly drool, Lemelin feels a deep sense of gratitude. Despite his harsh words, he's always the first to throw himself into danger to protect her. She feels entirely safe by his side, yet a dark secret weighs on her. Gripping a glowing blue pendant, she is terrified that if he ever finds out, he'll hate her forever. By the next day, our boy is still suffering the painful aftermath of his previous boss fight. The unmerged powers of the fallen heroes clash inside him, taking a massive physical toll. To fully master these abilities, he directs the convoy toward a specific destination. However, as they approach the village outskirts, the escorting knight hesitates, suggesting they change their route. Hearing about a deadly plague ahead, our boy insists on going in anyway. Assuming he has a heart of gold, the naive knights proudly declare they'll bring their priest to save the weak. Hearing their overwhelming sense of justice, our boy can't help but let out a wicked smirk. It seems this dangerous plague village is about to become his next perfect hunting ground. The royal knights finally arrive at the plague-stricken village. The blonde commander immediately orders his men to help the locals and secure the perimeter. While the commander blames nearby monsters, our boy knows better. He recognizes the deadly green moss disease, a plague that literally consumes the infected. The village is a living nightmare filled with agonizing infected. A desperate mother pushes to the front, tearfully begging for just a drop of water for her child. Seeing the frantic woman about to grab Lemelin, our boy instantly draws his blade to block her, coldly warning her to back off. Despite his harsh actions, he orders Lemelin to toss the woman their water pouch. Surprisingly, the grateful mother showers the silver-haired girl with thanks instead. Our boy just side-eyes the situation, slightly annoyed. He gave the water, but Lemelin gets all the credit. Jokes aside, he gets straight to the point. He sternly warns Lemelin that the plague spreads through touch, forbidding her from contacting anyone but him. Noticing her sympathetic gaze, our guy quickly shuts it down. He warns her not to play hero, threatening to deduct any medical bills straight from her pay. Our boy hands out supplies to the refugees, but seeing Lemelin's sympathy immediately sets off alarm bells in his head. In this brutal world, blind kindness is a deadly poison. To knock some sense into her, our guy gives her a strict reality check. His rule is absolute: never help anyone without his explicit permission. The scene shifts as our boy leads Lemelin deep into the sewers of Karet, the plague source. Seeing the familiar fallen heroes, he knows this place is going to be deadly. To make sure she understands the stakes, our guy bluntly warns her that following him could easily get her killed. Despite sweating in sheer terror, Lemelin firmly nods her head. Since she chose to stay, she needs to survive. Our boy tosses her a blade, forcing the ranged fighter to step out of her comfort zone and learn close-quarters combat. Right on cue, a swarm of mutated monsters rushes out from the shadows. Without a word, our guy charges straight into the horde, giving her a hardcore, hands-on combat lesson. Facing the lunging beasts, our boy leaps into the air and brings his glowing sword down in a devastating strike. But the true terror lurking in the dark has only just begun. Startled by a plague rat, Lemelin screams in panic. Our boy just sighs and effortlessly takes the pest out with a single strike. Looking at the trembling girl, he knows all too well that the visceral terror of close-quarters combat is enough to break any rookie. Recalling his own bitter struggle against Wolfriken, he realizes constant protection isn't the answer. He must teach her to fight and survive on her own. To help her overcome her fear, our guy instructs her to pull a special staff from her bag and strike it hard against the stone wall. Sparks fly as the expensive torch of Rakma ignites, its bright flames instantly terrifying the plague rats. Seeing this, he gives a cold order, "Kill it!" Facing the snarling monster, Limelin is still terrified. But determined to stay by her master's side, she swallows her fear and snaps her eyes open. The next second, all hesitation vanishes. Holding the torch high, she dives down with her dagger and lands a clean, decisive kill on the beast. Navigating the dark, winding underground passage, Limelin cautiously leads the way. Despite breaking a sweat from the oppressive atmosphere, she successfully clears out the mechanical guards along the path. Our boy examines the wall, confirming the terrain exactly matches his memory of the game. To save time, he pulls out red crystals and activates his mechanical arm, ready for a brute force shortcut. He grabs Lemelin's shoulder, warning her to keep her head down. Moments later, the crystals detonate, and the violent blast rips a massive hole straight through the solid stone wall. Satisfied with his handiwork, he crouches by the edge to assess the situation. The hero's spirit residing within him floats out, sarcastically telling him to drop the dramatic act and get moving. Stepping into the green glowing cavern, he explains that this is the lair of Karet, the source of the plague. Seeing his companion completely unfazed, he's secretly impressed by her strong stomach. Looking into the depths, they spot swarms of mutated rats lurking in the dark. Knowing that even a single touch from these plague-ridden pests spells doom, our guy immediately asks Lemelin for the backpack. Unzipping the bag, he pulls out explosive arrows crafted with firestones. It's the signature crowd control combo of Pavel's, the hunter hero he absorbed perfect for wiping out tightly packed monsters. Ignoring his companion's doubts about the heavy arrow, our boy steadily draws his bow, ready to show her what true marksmanship looks like. Channeling a fallen hero's marksmanship, he releases the string. The thunderous arrow strikes the ground, triggering a massive explosion right where the rat monsters hide. Before his companion can even recover from the shock, our boy draws his glowing sword. He quickly locks onto the next target, blowing another rat sky high. Working seamlessly together to block every escape route, our guy unleashes a rapid barrage of strikes. The precise explosions completely cover the rocky terrain, trapping the swarm. Gathering his energy for the final blow, he unleashes a devastating strike. The blinding light pierces straight through the dense swarm, instantly reducing the monsters to ashes. However, the battle is far from over. The commotion attracts a massive, bone-massed beast. Facing this towering new threat, our boy remains completely unfazed. The giant beast lets out a deafening roar to intimidate its prey. But our guy just coldly taunts it back. Will this lone monster reveal a deadlier trick? Arriving at the hidden dungeon, our boy knows just summoning a minion isn't enough, they need taming. So, pulling out the life pendant, he forcefully summons the arrogant knight commander Radek. Before Radek can even process the situation or get any invincibility frames, he's ambushed by the terrifying hidden boss. Meanwhile, our boy and Lemelin comfortably watch the show from above. Battered by the boss's relentless attacks, Radek curses in frustration. Just then, our boy casually yells down, telling him to show his strength. Radek finally realizes he's being used as free labor. The proud knight refuses to submit to such an indignity. But our boy calmly dangles the pendant, the literal key to Radek's life. Seeing the knight still acting tough, he decides to push him to his limit. To completely break Radek's pride, our boy delivers a harsh ultimatum. I don't need weaklings. If you won't fight, I'll just throw your lifeline away. Seeing he's dead serious, the arrogant knight panics and begs him to wait. Giving him absolutely no room to bargain, our boy offers two choices: crush the monster and become a loyal subordinate, or die here. As he turns to leave without hesitation, Radek's true desperate trial has just begun. Dealing with the disobedient Radek, our boy decides to penalize him. He throws an enhancing stone straight at the boss, forcing the difficulty level up. Even the boss Karet is stunned. But after absorbing the stone, the terrifying monster goes berserk, erupting with massive energy. Radek furiously slashes through the swarming rats. Before he can clear them out, the heavily buffed Karet dives from above, jaws wide open. While Radek struggles below, our boy chills safely on the sidelines. He knows the best way to break an arrogant knight is to strip away his precious pride. Seeing Radek exhausted, our guy mockingly asks if he needs help. Driven by his stubborn pride, Radek forces himself up, insisting he can handle it alone. Our boy casually floats in midair to enjoy the show. But the moment Radek gets distracted, Karet looms right over him, unleashing a crushing surprise attack. Facing the skeletal behemoth's roar, our boy summoned warrior Radak fearlessly ignites his blade and launches a blazing plunge attack from the sky. The beast retaliates by smashing the ground with a heavy punch. Watching Radak land steadily, our boy quietly analyzes the battle from the shadows, unfazed by the power gap. Just as Radak thinks he has the upper hand, the monster's terrifying regeneration kicks in. It violently strikes back, sending the former Knight Commander flying instantly. Quickly recovering midair, Radak unleashes golden sword waves. Meanwhile, as a veteran player, our boy already knows all about this monster's annoying death-defying healing mechanics. To break the stalemate, our boy decisively issues a command. While Radak catches his breath, Caddis dashes into the battlefield like a streak of light to follow up. The two summoned heroes cooperate flawlessly. Right after Caddis launches his assault, Radak leaps again, delivering a devastating downward strike that triggers a massive explosion on the beast's head. Frustrated by the unkillable beast, Radak demands a plan. Our boy simply tells him to watch closely, knowing the cornered monster is about to unleash its most frantic and deadly charge. Facing the skeletal behemoth trying to buy time to heal, our boy shows no mercy. While he suppresses it in his Caddis form, the summoned knight Radak brutally interrupts the monster's recovery with a fiery thrust to the head. The desperate monster lunges forward. Our guy braces against the impact with an outstretched arm, complaining about the wasted time, while Radak leaps into the air, ready to deliver the final blow. Now let's finish this! Radak brings his blazing sword down with devastating force. The explosive fiery slash engulfs the monster, instantly shattering its rock-hard skull into pieces. After the fierce battle, our exhausted boy drops his transformation and collapses, clutching the beast's core. Standing nearby, Radak is in utter disbelief, completely unable to understand how his seemingly weak master pulled off such a victory. Facing the stunned Radak, our boy smoothly turns the tables, coldly scolding the knight for a disappointing performance before ruthlessly forcing him back into the crystal. Listening to the arrogant commander's panicked protests as he fades, our guy smirks, knowing his psychological warfare worked perfectly. With the hidden boss out of the way, it's time to solve the village's plague problem. Our boy urges Lemelin to bring the gear down, only for the overly obedient girl to instantly dive headfirst off the cliff with her massive backpack. A heavy crash echoes as Lemelin hits the ground like a meteor. Seeing the dizzy girl slumped over her bag, our guy lets out a helpless sigh. Throwing the bag first was clearly too complex a concept for her to grasp. After a brief rest, the duo continues navigating the dark canyon bottom. Soon, our boy stops in his tracks. Looking at the eerie red liquid seeping through the cracked ground, he knows the real danger is just beginning to surface. To stop the plague rats from polluting the water source, our boy Hans steps up. Slamming his staff into the ground, he's about to start a hardcore purification in the dark canyon. Watching Hans tie the mana stones to a rope, Lemelin leans in curiously. It turns out his idea of purification is simply blowing up the blocked water veins with fire stones. Amazed by this hardcore plan, Lemelin eagerly asks if she can help, only to be shot down by a cold no. Disappointed, she slumps back onto her massive backpack. Hans stays completely focused on setting the explosives, ignoring the pouting girl behind him. In this cruel world, his precise calculations leave no room for distraction. But then, Hans suddenly tells her to head back and clear out the remaining rats. Her excitement instantly turns to pure terror at the mere mention of the creatures. Facing her fear, a fallen hero's words flash through her mind. Hesitation leads to losing everything. Refusing to be abandoned, Lemelin tightly clenches her fists. Seeing Lemelin leave her heavy bag behind, Hans is genuinely surprised. He doesn't know she's realized that following him is no longer a slave's duty, but her own choice. Armed with this new resolve, Lemelin approaches the dark cave. Trusting her master wouldn't give her an impossible task, she prepares to face the countless bloodthirsty eyes in the shadows. Determined never to be abandoned again, Lemelin pushes herself to the limit. She tears through the darkness like a falling star, slaying monsters to prove her worth to our boy. Our boy is actually watching from the shadows. It's hard to see her struggle, but he's decided to let her fight alone this time to see if she can survive a real crisis. Seeing Lemelin exhaust herself by just blocking, our boy finally shouts out a reminder. Defense alone won't win the fight. Hearing his voice, she instantly regains her focus. Following our boy's advice, Lemelin strikes at the monster's weak points. Her glowing blade flashes with blue energy, smoothly piercing through their skulls with newfound precision. While Lemelin panted from exhaustion, our boy walked over to critique her for carrying that heavy bag. Poor Limelin is confused after all, he was the one who told her to guard it. It turns out the rope inside is their lifeline. As our boy preps his gear, he drops a bombshell. She has to stay behind and hold off the approaching rat swarm all by herself. With the plan set, our boy launches his grappling hook and scales the wall. Watching him go, Limelin grips her blade tight. The real test of survival starts now. Suspended by a thick rope, Limelin plunges into the rat swarm below. Touched by our boy's trust, she draws her blade with absolute loyalty and zero hesitation. She gracefully slaughters the monsters one by one. However, facing an endless sea of vicious rats, she soon finds her stamina draining away in the relentless battle. Just as she reaches her limit, our boy steps in. Summoning the spirit of the captured Knight Commander, he infuses golden raw power into his hands and yanks the rope. With a massive pull, Limelin is launched high into the sky, perfectly escaping the deadly encirclement. Seeing her safe, Hans gives a calm smile of approval. The hero ghost chuckles, teasing that Limelin's rare lineage will definitely cause trouble later. But our guy doesn't care, choosing to focus on the immediate task at hand. With all preparations set, Hans pulls out a glowing red crystal. Upon activation, it instantly erupts into a blinding pillar of crimson light. Meanwhile elsewhere, despair continues to spread. Someone desperately channels holy magic to cure the plague, only to realize in tears that even divine spells are completely useless. Just as the village falls into despair, a brilliant blue beam of light shoots into the sky with a deafening roar. The Knight Captain looks up, completely stunned by the miracle. Fresh, clean water suddenly erupts from the ground. While the villagers drop to their knees in gratitude, their joy is cut short as plague rats blasted by the shockwaves start raining from the sky. The captain immediately orders his knights to form up and protect the villagers. Meanwhile, our boy is watching the spectacle from afar, perfectly content to let the knights handle the leftover mobs. Instead of rushing back, he calmly tells Limelin to keep gathering the purple flowers. Just then, the confused knight captain tracks him down to see what is going on. Seeing his casual demeanor, the captain tentatively asks if he caused the massive explosion. Realizing he soloed such a terrifying monster, the captain's respect for him skyrockets. Treating him as a master, the captain respectfully asks him to return and lead the aftermath. But our boy just waves it off, saying he needs to finish picking flowers first, leaving the captain completely baffled. Actually, our boy has it all calculated. The knights can easily handle the surviving rats. Holding up a purple flower, he calmly explains that treating the village's disease is the real priority, and this little herb is the cure. Since holy magic failed, the Knight Commander decides to bet on these purple flowers, offering his squads help if they work. Hearing the offer of free labor, our boy gladly agrees and prepares to test the cure. To confirm the situation, the group heads back to the village to speak with the chief. However, when the sick elder turns around to greet them, things take a very unexpected turn. Spotting the white-haired Limelin, the frail chief becomes overwhelmed with emotion, mistaking her for the legendary savior. This sudden display of fervent worship leaves everyone in the room completely stunned. Our boy can't help but scoff inwardly. After all, he bought her from a slave market, so she hardly possesses any savior-like abilities. Meanwhile, suddenly put on a pedestal, Limelin is so flustered she can barely speak. As the chief grows more ecstatic, Limelin shoots our boy desperate glances for help. Sighing, he decides to play along, declaring that the savior herself will prepare the medicine to cure the green moss disease. The medicine's formula is actually quite simple. Under our boy's guidance, Limelin carefully crushes and filters the petals. Holding the glowing purple cure, she's thrilled to finally feel genuinely helpful to the villagers. However, while everything seems to be going smoothly, our boy sits alone outside, lost in thought. Calculating the timing, he knows that according to the game's mechanics, a hidden crisis should have triggered by now. After the plague was cured, the blonde knight started praising our boy for his noble humility. While brushing it off outwardly, our guy was internally screaming, "Forget the praise, where is my quest reward?" Just then, the village chief arrived with an ancestral treasure. Awkwardly, the old man mistook the white-haired Limelin for the legendary savior, forcing the dagger into the hands of the flustered girl. Our boy instantly recognized it as the ultimate quest reward. Though a bit salty, he figured its stats were actually perfect for Limelin right now, so he generously told her to keep it. Seeing her joyfully raise the glowing dagger, our guy couldn't help but sigh in the corner. He did all the backbreaking work, yet someone else walked away with the legendary loot. Leaving the village behind, the group continued their journey by carriage. After a long trek, a magnificent city floating above the clouds finally appeared before them, the empire's capital, Satanch. Meanwhile, in the heavily guarded palace corridors, the advanced knights prepared to meet the king. However, a colleague's warning hinted at a dangerous political undercurrent waiting in this prosperous city. Word arrives that a powerful demon has appeared near the border, just as the game predicted. Meanwhile, our boy's distinct armor catches everyone's eye. It's the exact gear of the wandering knight the king has been searching for. Since there's no running away, our boy and Limelin head to the palace for a royal audience. As they offer their respects in the grand hall, Limelin keeps a sharp eye on the king, ever watchful. The king mentions a name that spells trouble: Razgrad, the ancient fortress demon. Known for raining down 1,000 weapons from the sky, its massive shadow and sheer power are the stuff of nightmares. Being a pro player, our boy immediately recognizes this as a high-level boss. Realizing it's practically a suicide mission at his current state, he almost loses his cool and tries to back out before the king even finishes the offer. Noticing our boy's hesitation, the king clarifies that he's not expected to solo the demon. Instead, he's being asked to provide vital support to the chosen hero, who is already leading the hunt. As the grand capital looms in the background, the king discusses our boy's mysterious identity with Sir Kelvin. He's noticed that despite claiming to be a mere mercenary, the man's courtly manners are far too refined. Kelvin admits that beyond his commoner status, the man is a total enigma. Having met countless people, the king is intrigued this mercenary doesn't tremble with fear, yet lacks the typical arrogance of his trade. Most who stand before the throne are consumed by fear or greed, but our boy's calm demeanor suggests he's playing a much deeper game. The mystery surrounding him is only just beginning to unfold. Meanwhile, the king is discussing our boy's performance. The cunning ruler realizes Hans is no ordinary mercenary, and plans to use him as a crucial pawn. However, when asked what happens if Hans fails, the king's cold response reveals his true nature: a useless pawn will simply be discarded without mercy. Back in the guest room, the vibe is entirely different. Limelin is absolutely mesmerized by an extravagant dessert stand, practically drooling over the treats. Telling his companion not to overeat, our boy calmly analyzes the situation. He knows the king just wants to use him to preserve his own military. Normally, our boy would trigger the king-slaying route here, but the rewards are too good to pass up. Overhearing this, Limelin is terrified by his dangerous thoughts. Suddenly, Limelin's sharp instincts kick in. Trembling, she turns and warns Hans that an incredibly powerful presence is fast approaching their room. Our boy immediately goes on high alert. If she can sense the aura through thick walls, the visitor isn't a regular NPC, it must be a true hero. As the heavy door slowly opens, a towering figure steps into the light. Our boy instantly recognizes the man. It's the formidable hero, Ferox Hesline.